Simon says subscribe and click on the bell icon to receive notifications.
Hey there, welcome back to QuickBooks for Desktop 2023. We are working in section 4 where we're going through anything related to customers and jobs. We just got through talking about how to create estimates. Now what I want to talk to you about is how to take those estimates you've created and create invoices based on those estimates. It could be that you'd like to invoice your customer for a percentage of an estimate, or maybe there's certain items on that estimate you'd like to pull into an invoice. You can make this look any way you like. Let's go ahead and flip over to QuickBooks and we'll get started, and I'll show you how to create invoices from your estimates. When you're looking at your home screen, after you create an estimate, you'll notice the next thing in the flowchart is to create an invoice. This would be an invoice related to an estimate, or it could be an invoice that has nothing to do with an estimate. This is where you're going to enter all invoices. Before I create this invoice though, I'd like to go back and look at the estimate that I just created. I'm going to go back to the Customer Center. I'm going to find my customer, Tom Allen, and I'm going to look for the job, which was the pool fence. And you can see that once I clicked on it, I now see there's the estimate. I'll just open it up. Now that I can see this estimate, if I want to make a change to it, or if I want to create an invoice directly from here, remember I could do that, but chances are you're not going to be on this screen when you're ready to create that invoice. I'm just going to go to the home screen and do it that way. Let me close this window, and I'm going back to home. Now I'm going to click on the Create Invoices icon, and now you can see we're in an invoice. Invoices look very similar to estimates. There will be a few things that are a little bit different, but we'll look at those. The first thing QuickBooks wants to know is who is my customer and the job for that customer. Remember, you're going to always click the job. I'm going to click Pool Fence, and now it brought up a list of available estimates. Let me just mention right here that if I had chosen just Tom Allen from the list here, it would not bring up these available estimates because I don't have an estimate for Tom Allen. I have an estimate for Tom Allen's pool fence. There needs to be an exact match on the estimate and the invoice in order for it to recognize the available estimates. I'm going to click on the estimate, and then I'm going to click OK. And now it's asking me some questions based on progress invoicing. And remember, this was a preference that you turned on in the preferences. When you're creating an invoice based on an estimate, you can create one for the entire estimate. Maybe you want to create an invoice for a percentage. And if you type in a percentage, you don't have to type that percent sign, but it doesn't hurt. It knows to do the calculation. You also could go ahead and invoice for items that are on the estimate. I'll choose that one and just click OK to show you how this works. Here you can see the two items that we had on our estimate. I'm going to come over to this quantity column, and I'm going to say that I want to invoice for 4 hours of the labor, and we'll go ahead and do one screen door here. Then I can click OK, and you can see it pulled in those quantities. If you want to add something to this, just click on the next available line and type it in. Let's say there was a delivery charge, and we'll say it was just $25 that we charge. And of course, you can add as many things as you like. Another thing that I see done frequently is if you had some notes, sometimes people will just type them on this line here. And this will word wrap, and you can just type as much as you want here. You don't have to pick an item to go with it. You'll notice with each of these lines, the item can be taxable or not as far as sales tax is concerned. And at the bottom, it does tell you the total of your sales tax, the total of this invoice. If there were any previous payments that were applied to this, you would see those here, and of course the balance due. A couple of things on the left you might want to make note of. Here's your customer message. You can add a new one if you'd like. It pulled in the memo we had on our estimate, and also it pulled in the fact that our customer is a taxable customer. Back up at the top, you want to make sure you've got the correct class chosen. And of course, this is your template for your invoices. Here's the date of the invoice. Let's make this the 27th of December. And you'll notice that it brought in the next invoice number. Something that you did not have on estimates is you didn't have these two fields for the terms and the due date. You'll notice that because my terms are net 15 here, that it automatically has a due date of January the 11th, which is 15 days from the 27th of December here. And if I change that, then you'll see this date changes to reflect that. Let's look at a couple of things that you have at the top. Let's start with your main tab. And you'll notice a lot of these options will be familiar to you already. You do have the ability to search through your invoices. You can use the arrows to go right or left and search the next or previous ones. Or if you hit the Find option here, you have the ability to go through and type in any criteria you need in order to find the invoice you're looking for. Here's where you would create a new invoice. This is the exact same thing as coming down to the bottom and choosing Save and New. And then you have your Save option. If you've spent a lot of time working on this and you don't want to lose anything you have, you can go ahead and save invoice, and notice you can also save it as a PDF file if you like. Here's where you'd actually delete this invoice. Some people prefer not to delete the invoice, but to actually void it. That way it stays in the system and it just says void across the top. Let's say there's another invoice you need to create that's very similar to this one. Just create a copy and then change those few things that you need to change. You also have the option to memorize this. If there's some invoice that you need to use on a regular basis, maybe you invoice the customer the same every single month, then you have the ability to set it up so QuickBooks automatically enters that for you. You can also mark this as pending. What if for some reason you want to hold off on this invoice and you don't want it to show up in reports? Then you can mark it as pending, and when you're ready to make it part of your accounts receivable again, you can come back up and you'll be able to mark it as final. The next thing you have is the option to print this. There's a down arrow because you have several different choices. Let's preview this first. I'll just click to zoom in here. This is what a basic invoice looks like. We're going to be able to customize this, but you can see that this one says invoice at the top. It's got all of the information you need about the invoice. Here are some things you did not see on the estimate. You did not have a due date right here, and you didn't have the terms here. And something else to notice about invoicing is the customer does not see the item column. When you're naming your items in QuickBooks, you can name them anything you want. The customer will see the description, so they will know what it is you're invoicing them for. I'll go ahead and hit close at the top. Back under print again, you did have an option to preview. You can actually go ahead and print the invoice, and then you have the batch option. Now what that means is you see there's a checkbox over here that says print later. That means that if you want to go through and set up several of these, you can check that box, and when you're ready to print them all at the same time, you would print the batch. You can also print packing slips, shipping labels, and envelopes. These would come from mail merges with Microsoft Word, and you could also save that as a PDF. When you're sending an email out, it's going to actually attach this invoice in a PDF format for you. You have the ability to send this one or send the batch if you checked email later. You can attach a file. If there's any file at all that's related to this invoice, you have a quick way to access it if you've attached it. I want to go ahead and stop this video right here. We're going to continue over in Invoicing from Estimates Part 2. Head on over and I'll meet you there shortly. Hey there, welcome back to QuickBooks for Desktop. We're working in the 2023 version, and we've made it all the way down now to Section 4, where we're talking about customers and jobs. We've been talking about how to create invoices from estimates. We've already completed Part 1. This is Part 2. Let's go ahead and flip over to QuickBooks and we'll keep going. So far what we've done is we've created an estimate for a job, and then we created one invoice based on that estimate. What I want to do now is create a second invoice which will pull everything that's remaining from that estimate into an invoice, and that way we can go ahead and get paid for the job. Before we do that though, let's go up here to the Customer Center and see how it looks when you're looking in this window. I'm clicked on my customer and I went ahead and clicked on the pool fence, which is the job, and you can see that there's the estimate I created and then there's that invoice. Keep in mind that if you needed to open up either one of these transactions, this is the easiest way to do it from this window. If you want to make a change, make that change and save it. If not, you can go ahead and save and close at the bottom or click the X at the top of the window to get out of the transaction. Now let's head back to the home screen and create that second invoice. I'm going to click on Create Invoices. I'll pull in my customer and the job. Remember, always click the job. You can see that there's still one available estimate, and something just to note, you would think that when you look at this estimate, it would show the remaining amount, but it doesn't. It shows the full amount all the time. So just know which estimate you'd like to click on and then click OK. Here it's asking us if we want to create an invoice for the remaining amounts of the estimate. It didn't ask us that the first time. It asked us if we wanted to create an invoice for 100%. This is how you know you've created at least one invoice from this estimate. I'm going to choose that top option and click OK. And you can see what it did is it pulled everything that was left that had not yet been pulled into an invoice. If you wanted to add your delivery charge like we did previously, you could do that, or any other charges that you might need to add. I'm going to make a few changes. I'll change the date up here. I'm going to say that this runs into January of 24 actually. And you can see it assigned the next invoice number automatically. Everything else looks okay here. I'm just going to give it a customer message down at the bottom left. And unless I need to change anything else, I'm going to go ahead and save and close. Now if I go back to my Customer Center, you can see both of the invoices right there. Now we've actually completed the estimate and we've pulled everything into two separate invoices.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To see the full course that this video came from, click over there. And click over there to see more videos from Simon Says It.